and welcome, my dear friends. I have a ring light. Look at this lighting. I have spent the last 4 years having really crappy lighting, and then here, look. Christmas lists. They're amazing. This is going to be a Christmas haul slash December haul slash I forgot to write everything down because I forgot my notebook when I visited a family and they gave me gifts. So here is an erratic list of things as I look at my shelves. So first of all, we have probably the most important book for me, and this is Camouflage: The Hidden Lives of Autistic Women. So I know many amazing women who have been diagnosed with autism, but most of them were diagnosed as adults. I've known a few people who have then and then their children have been diagnosed younger, but this book really dives into how and why the misconceptions around the stigma of autism, as well as why these people and why women specifically get not diagnosed because of the male-centered things, and that people saying, well, you're not good enough at math to be autistic, and all of these things. And I've literally had people say, well, that person isn't smart enough, and it's it's exhausting and frustrating, and all of these stereotypes don't help women when they're trying to navigate their mind and they don't have the proper resources. So this is primarily written for autistic women, but I think that it's very helpful for someone who works with people with mental health and with counseling and with life in general, as well as anyone who knows someone who has autism, which you most definitely do unless you live in a town of no people. And yeah, so I think this is a really good resource, and I'm very excited to lend it out because that's one of the reasons why I love collecting books, and I keep books even if I don't particularly like them, because I think I grew up without a lot of books, so whenever I have books that I can lend out, especially ones that provide voices to people who don't hear a lot. Talking about characters that often don't get represented, we have Pet by Akunmi Emezi, which is probably a butchering of their name, but they are a Nigerian American author, and this is a trend story about Jam, who lives in a world that has fantastical aspects. It's very loose magic, but I love that it's a trans story that doesn't deal with trauma or dysphoria or rejection or anything like that. All we have is that she has selective mutism, and when she was a child she didn't speak, and her first words were kind of not a boy, and then she transitioned. End of story. And I love the representation of selective mutism. I had it when I was a child, and I think that is a really good, important story. But this deals with sexual abuse, and on the backs we have, how do you share the truth when the world is in denial? There are no monsters anymore, or so children in Lucille are taught. So we use monsters as a way to discuss abuse and other things like that, and it is so thoughtfully done. For instance, we deal with the fact that, and I think that this is an accessible story to any children, and that's what makes it even middle grade, but it could be a younger child as well to understand it, because they're reading about what it is and they're traumatized, but it's things they wouldn't allow us to bath them anymore, or things like that, which don't necessarily represent clear graphic depictions or anything, but to anyone who's gone through trauma or worked with people who trauma, that makes sense. And I love the nuance of it because it allows the way to someone to understand the signs, but also for someone who is not really ready to process that yet, lets it be a fantastical story and kind of puts in the mind that maybe this is a monster and representation of that. And I love the way that this story is navigated. I think Emezi did an incredible job, and I bought it immediately after I read it so that I can go through it and underline it. And I think that as I work with children and teen and all of that, this is a book that I will be recommending to people who want to talk to children about sexual abuse or want to understand how better to have those conversations. And I think it is such an amazing story for that. Next, we have one of my favorite authors, and that is Lucy Maud Montgomery. She's a Canadian author that's best known for Anne of Green Gables and then Emily of New Moon. But this is The Story Girl. This is the basis of the TV series from the 90s from Avonlea, which was one of the things I just grew up in and loved so much. And I read it at that time, and I'm excited to read it again and just dive into the story and read the sequel, which I never did. And then we also have by her Jane of Lantern Hill, and I don't know, I adore these covers so much and I want to own all of them. My collection is starting over there. And yeah, I don't know this story specifically, but I just want to read all of her books, and this is on Prince Edward Island, and I'm just super excited. Changing it up, we have Splendor. This is a game. I love board games. I love card games. I love playing things that allow me to plan and strategy and all of that. And this is a fun game. I'm not going to explain how it is because it's long, but if you want a quick game that can both anyone who doesn't like games can play it, but also people who really enjoy strategic games, I think that this is a wonderful mix, and it's also only 20 or 30 minutes, which makes it perfect. The ring light is hard to get around, but this is Harleen. This is one of my favorite books, and my friend gave it to me. She doesn't really like fiction, so this is the love. Ooh, hello baby. This is a backstory of Harleen, or Harley Quinn, and her thing from a psychologist working at Gotham to the Joker's henchwoman slash own thing, because she has more agency in this book. I have shown the fiction before, and I will put pictures of it upstairs because I really, really love the way that the art is illustrated. Stefan Sejic is both the author as well as the artist, and you can really tell that through because he does such an incredible job of illustrating in a way that just makes you fall in love. This is kind of what brought me back into reading comics, and I've been reading like 3 or 4 comics each month since, and thank you, Stefan Sejic, and yeah, thank you, Casually Comics, which Sasha is like one of those people I watch every time I have an upload, and I just adore her so much, and I adore this book. So yeah, if you really want to get into comics, this is a really easy, understandable, like no really need of canon or anything like that. I really, really recommend it. And like, I'm not a huge fan of Harley Quinn, but like, I loved this book. So even if you're like annoyed with Harley as she appears in pop culture, don't worry about it. You'll like this. Talking about comic books, a little bit before Christmas, I was like dropping off some books and clothes and stuff like that at a thrift store, and I was looking through, and this woman was like going comics, and I was like, oh, she overheard me talking about comics, because so often comics are never, ever in... I just saw that, guys, and I forgot to talk about them. I'm going to talk about them. Okay, so I was like, I need to talk about the fact that I adore comics so much, and they're so expensive, and I can never afford them. And yeah, she heard me, and then she brought them out and was like, yeah, you know, maybe like $3. And I was like, this is Watchmen. This is Watchmen. I got it for $2. Huh, I love it so much. Okay, also I'm going to talk about these guys because my friend, avoid the fact that my shirt is pulling up. My friends gave me this. This is Catwoman and this is Batman. I've always wanted Funko Pops. Over there in the corner, I'll grab him. He is Zuko, which my roommate gave me. I've always wanted Funko Pops, and like, my dream come true. Oh, I'm so happy right now. Okay, excitement back, excitement back. We also have Batman things. Also, I was just overly spoiled. That's what they were like, you don't have any like geek stuff, we are going to get you all the nerd stuff. And I also got a Star Hollow shirt, which I can't find. Like, I've got more Christmas presents than I've gotten in the last like 3 years. I have so many good friends. Zuko. Zuko is my love. He has been my love. Like, he's less my love with this haircut. But he's this little red thing. Funko Pop. And then I got some Ruby Car poetry. Like, I was spoiled rotten. The Sun and Her Flowers and Homebody. I love this poetry. I will be quiet when we can say sexual assault and they stop screaming liar. Bam! And then I think this is the end. And we have, oh, my heater came on. This is Transcendent Kingdom, and yeah, Gazazi. I freaking love this book. Homecoming was one of my first books of last year, 2020, and this was one of my final books, and this follows Gifty, who is a 6-year PhD student who looks at behavioral science and addiction, and she deals with that to kind of deal with her own trauma and her mother's mental health, who has come to live with her. It is a story about religion. It is a story about coming in and kind of figuring out how to deal with family, how to deal with trauma, and processing. And it's one of those personal stories to me in a way that I can't even fathom or explain. Like, the more I love books, the harder it is for me to talk. And like, I'm currently procrastinating on doing my favorites of the year because I find that stressful, because I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Attraction. Yeah, this is an incredible book, and I really, really recommend it. And then this isn't really a Christmas present, but I did get it, so I'm going to be excited. Oh, it matches my shirt. My roommate's sister had a class in folktales and had finished, so she was like, you know who should have this? Kirsten. And I was like, really? People are just offering me a book now? I love when people are just like, yeah, here's a book, I'm done with it. And I'm like, happiness galore. Okay, I think I am Kira the Scrivener, and this is my channel. I talk about books on Instagram mostly, and here. And yeah, I hope you have a fantastic day. Tell me what you've gotten over Christmas, what books you want. Have you read these things? Should I read them? Should I hate them? All of the things above, and I'm so glad to see you guys again. Have a great day. Bye.